As it turns out, the captain of the basketball team is called Dawa, and he's built like a lightweight champion. The girl Pin Xiang saw earlier also shows up alongside the captain of the team and takes her time to introduce him to Xiang. She tells the captain that Xiang is the guy she's been recommending for the basketball team and urges him to try him out to see whether he'd be able to fit in or not. With this, Ju Dahua takes his cue and introduces himself to the skinny boy standing in front of him. He raises the basketball to Xiang's face and challenges him to a fair matchup. At this point, Dan starts questioning why Xiang is playing basketball instead of doing some soccer training. After hearing the almighty captain of the basketball team speak, Xiang puts on a smug look and asks the captain for his idea of a fair match. The captain responds and tells him that his idea of a fair match means the 5 of them are against him. Xiang takes up the challenge and asks Dahua for the rules. Dahua tells him that he'll win the match if he's able to score a point before they score 3. Xiang seems to get the point, so he gets his shoelaces on and waits for their referee, Aka, the pretty girl that followed Dahua, to kick them off. In a few seconds, the game begins and both Xiang and Dahua jump at the same time to reach the ball before passing to their respective teams. Everyone looks at both athletes as they race higher to see who gets the ball first. Xiang, who's a pro at volleyball, eventually jumps way higher than expected and slams his palm into the ball. This sends the ball flying over Dahua's head as it races straight to the hoop to score Xiang's winning point. Dan and the others are shocked to see someone of such skill grace the basketball court, and they start jubilating. Dahua, on the other hand, is a big loser who can't take an L, so he pretends like his bowels gave up on him and accuses Xiang of scoring behind his back. Xiang could see the foul play here, but he was there to have fun, not bicker with an insensitive loser. As such, he squeezes his face and promises to let Dahua kick off next time. Dahua's diarrhea suddenly gets healed, and the game begins all over again. This time, Xiang lets them get the ball so they can make their play. Dahua races towards Xiang's hoop with his teammates so they can make their point. On their way there, however, his teammates lose their footing on the slippery court and fall on their asses. As it turns out, the ignorant fools wore flip-flops to the damn basketball court. Well, they fall on their asses and leave things to the captain of the team to finish. With only him and Xiang remaining on the court, Xiang smirks and tells them that he'd added the negative status to the court to make their luck super bad before they started the game. One of the losers there calls Xiang unfair for using his brain to give himself the upper hand. Xiang rubs in their ill luck and lets them know that he has protection. With that, the other loser players beg their captain to make sure he keeps Xiang from scoring until the negative effect wears off. Dahua takes the initiative to dunk on Xiang while his teammates heal from their bad luck. He jumps as high as he can to complete the dunk, but then again, by sheer coincidence, he stops midair and lies down on the ground laughing stupidly at his teammates' misfortune. He just couldn't stop himself from laughing at his stupid teammates who never knew that wearing flip-flops to the court is downright stupid. Xiang just stands there watching the entire school basketball team acting like worms on cold sand. The cute girl from earlier tells him something about a delay in Dahua's laugh and his laughing 1 minute ago that didn't even make any sense to the average person. When she's done yapping, she leaves the boys to continue their game. Xiang holds the ball with such determination and uses his original pellet shot to accelerate the speed of the ball so that it gets to the hoop in time. To his dismay, Dahua shocks everyone on the court by catching his pellet shot with one hand and then racing towards him to score the second point. He races past Xiang like he is a thin piece of paper and dunks on the hoop like he owns the place. At that time, the negative effect on his teammates wears out and they get back on their feet to continue playing. As he races back to his half of the court, Xiang stops him and makes another deal with him. If he can win the basketball match against all odds, then he has to join their soccer team as their goalie. Dahua accepts his deal without thinking twice. Poor boy probably didn't know that our boy had an ace up his sleeve. Anyways, the game continues, and Xiang uses his super giant pellet shot to make a shot. Again, Dahua catches his shot and passes it to another one of his teammates, who scores another point for his team. Now Xiang has to be very careful not to allow them to score again, as it would be their winning point. As the basketball dudes jubilate, Xiang gets a hold of the ball and decides to use something nobody's ever seen before. Dahua tells him to quit acting like a child and just play like a normal person so they can get this match over with. However, Xiang wasn't ready to give up just yet, so he accelerated his body and raced past the guys to get to the hoop. On his way there, Dahua manages to face him again, and this time, Xiang fakes a shot, causing Dahua to jump high and waste his energy. Now that his main threat is out of the way, Xiang bounces the ball on the court and jumps in for a self-made alley-oop. Dahao just kneels on the court, regretting his life decisions. When the rain stops, he rides his scooter to his home to sulk. Xiang and his soccer buddies asked him about the deal, but Dahao was too devastated to even think about the deal he made with Xiang seconds before he lost the match. As the four of them watch him ride away, Dan, the Humpty Dumpty captain, complains about Dahao not being true to his word. Xiang tells him not to worry too much about the doofus and that they should be patient enough for him to win the basketball championship for the school team before they join the soccer team. As long as he comes back, it's not considered a breach of trust. In the meantime, the cute girl asks Dahua as they climb everywhere home if he's truly going to join the soccer team. Dahua tells her that he's going to join. However, he's currently responsible for the basketball team and will join the soccer team once his mission in the basketball team is over. With that, they continue their ride, and Dahua ends up getting them lost. In the next scene, Xiang finds himself facing the weird kid that he found on the pitch that night and asks him some weird questions about numbers which the kids answer. Xiang continues asking him several other stupid math questions, and the kids answer them easily. Eventually, Xiang bows to his master and proceeds to request something. Just then, his master, the kid from earlier, gives him a book containing the list of all the key players Xiang would need on his team. He tells Xiang to go through every player there and make sure he takes them down so they can join his list. Xiang collects the book, thanks his master, and stares at the book as his master takes his leave. Up next, Xiang takes the pamphlet and stares through it to check the players listed there. He then takes the list to Humpty Dumpty so he can check through it and help him locate where they are all over the school. Humpty checks out the first person on the list, who looks like a debt collector, and asks Pin Xiang who the dude is. Before Xiang could say anything, two other dudes, the 30-cents guy and his former master, Alan, whom Xiang fought while getting to the broadcast station earlier, show up and ask Xiang to put them on the soccer team. Xiang notices the 30-cent guy, but fails to remember the other guy called Alan. Alan is a little broken-hearted by this, but then again, he picks up the list and tells them the details about Quan Zhang, the only first-grade player to get into pro soccer leagues. Right now, he's on the Louis Sifin Soccer Club and has been excelling there ever since. Upon hearing all the wonderful things Zhang could do, Xiang checks out the book and reads all he can about the guy. Meanwhile, Alan gets jealous and decides he's going to leave a stronger impression on Zhang so he can pick him. He thinks about how he can make Xiang remember him, and just then, he takes out a grappling hook he made earlier and gives it to Xiang, hoping he would remember him. Sadly for him, Xiang doesn't remember him at all. Humpty Dumpty even shows up to chase the dude out if not for 30 cents who helped him out. In the next scene, Xiang stays in class, and while his lessons go on, he thinks of the best ways to sneak out of class and get around the school so he can meet Zhang in his class. Then, it all clicks in his head, and he makes a loud exit to get to Zhang's class. On getting there, the teacher, Mr. Meng, accuses Xiang of interrupting his class and nearly chases him out. However, Xiang bursts his bubble when he reminds him about the good deed he did that day. Apparently, a girl was running at full speed with a slice of bread in her mouth and, without her knowing, was running into a guy who just stood there without moving. Xiang mentions that he saved the girl by making sure to spin the boy at several RPMs before throwing him into the sky. Xiang then asks Mr. Meng, the teacher, if he thinks that's good enough for him to not be punished. Mr. Ming covers his mouth with his hands and calls Xiang a kind and caring student. With that, he allows Xiang to do his thing, and Zhang moves on to ask Zhang to join their soccer team. Zhang refuses to join the soccer team because Xiang didn't spell his name right, and also because there's no soccer field in the school. Xiang thinks about this and promises to build a soccer field if Zhang joins his team shortly afterward. Zhang tells him to pull it off first, and then they can find out. With that, Xiang heads to the principal's office and finds him sleeping. He requests the principal that the school build a football pitch, but then the principal tells him there's no money. Xiang doesn't take no for an answer, so he removes the principal's clothing and speaks some sense into his head before leaving. Outside, a teacher finds him lacking and asks him why he's barging into the principal's office like that. Zhang lies about another good deed that he performed that morning and encourages the teacher to let him go. Moving on, the principal asks him if he plays soccer yet, but then again, Xiang tells him he will do so very soon. The principal makes a deal with him and lets him go. Xiang promises to raise some funds enough to build a soccer pitch for their school, but the principal dares him to do that. Moments after getting home, Xiang finds his mother in the kitchen cooking and says, "Hi." His angry mother gives him the 50 cents she found the previous day, and Xiang takes that money as he begins his fundraiser movement. He gets to a construction site and endures a heavy interview to get a job as a brick mover. The HR agent puts him through a rough patch of questions and hires him after Xiang answers everything. Next, Zhang plays a soccer match for his club and wins the game. On his way home, he finds Xiang trying to raise funds for the team, even going as far as selling tasty treats for 2 yuan each. One time, the rain starts falling, and Zhang gives Xiang an umbrella before continuing his journey back home. The next day, Xiang branches at his local food spot and is served some special soy milk. Upon tasting it, he finds it super delicious and asks the man to sell his soy milk recipe to him so he can use it to make money.